general manager of the Kansas City Chiefs, the defending AFC champion Kansas City Chiefs. Brett Veach back here on the Rich Eisen Show. How are you, Brett?
Rich, I'm doing great. How you guys doing?
We're doing fine. We are doing fine. So what do you think of that opener, Chiefs v. Browns?
That's going to be a tough one coming right out of the gate. Certainly we had our hands full with them in the playoffs, and they've done a great job in regards to their offseason and adding talent to their secondary. And look, they're going to be a tough game. We're certainly excited to get this thing kicked off. Hopefully we have a full capacity crowd there and capitalize on that home field advantage.
And do you have the schedule yet? Do you have it? You can tell me. I'm not going to pry because I'm the host of that show. I don't even have it yet. They don't even trust me, and I'm a vault. I'm like a Seinfeld vault.
Yeah.
Do you have it yet? Do you know it?
So I do,
okay.
But you know how this works. They give you the email with about 30 warnings that if you leak it, there'll be serious ramifications. So I can say this, though. There's only 3 people, I think, that have the schedule in our department. That would be myself, Coach Reed, and Eric Stone Street. So what you can do, at least protect me a little bit here,
sure,
so I don't get in trouble. Any information you need Chiefs related, just give Eric a text, and that way we'll keep it clean.
I don't know, Brett, who Eric would be more concerned about alienating by leaking it, you and the Chiefs organization or his BFF RG1 Roger Goodell. I don't know. I think he's going to. I think he's going to sit on this information, Brett. I'll be honest with you.
I think he got the schedule before I did. We were talking about week 1. He's like, yeah, I knew weeks ago. So I think he's ahead of me in regards to RG1's priority list.
So who should I ask, him or you? When's that game against Jordan Love and the Packers, Brett? When's that one?
Oh, listen, like I said, Eric has that type of information, okay, and I'm sure he'll be happy to share it with you.
Oh, man. But that is – so I look, because we all know what the Browns did last year, and they added Clowney to the mix on the defensive line. That will be quite the first test for your revamped offensive line, I would say, for sure. Walk me through your timeline here on rebuilding your offensive line. And we all saw the Super Bowl, and we were all talking about it. I'm wondering if it hit you in the same way, clearly.
Yeah, well, I think it was kind of one of those situations where when we start to meet as a staff in October, November, just looking ahead to free agency and roster construction in the future, certainly the offensive line was on the forefront in regards to our agenda and what we wanted to get accomplished. Now, during that time, we proceeded to lose our starting right tackle, Mitch Schwartz, and then in the AFC Championship game, our left tackle, Eric Fisher. So I would say that the offensive line was already at the forefront of what we wanted to get done, but that plan certainly got expedited, and it got put in a high gear once we were kind of made aware that, these we'll see what happens with Mitch Schwartz and his return. And I know Eric just signed with the Colts, but both those guys haven't played a bunch of snaps in the league, and just wanting to continue to build youth and depth on our roster was something that we were going in that direction anyway. So it just got kind of put in ultra gear there, and it's always dangerous when you go into free agency. We were fortunate enough to knock out a great interior player in Joe Tooney right off the bat. Exercise a little patience, and the Orlando Brown thing worked out. And then, then once you're not really going out there trying to assemble a roster by need and you're letting value and players come to you, I feel like everything else just kind of fell in place in regards to adding young players like Creed Humphrey and Trey Smith in the draft.
So let me pull on that string a little bit on Orlando Brown, where you said having patience paying off a little bit. What do you mean by that? Just knocking on the door of the Ravens and what do you mean by that?
Well, I think when you go into free agency, we had a plan, and we wanted to certainly add an interior player and a tackle. And as I mentioned, we cranked out Joe Tooney right off the bat, and we were kind of in on Trent Williams a little bit, and he decided to stay in San Francisco. And then after that, there's many different avenues you can pursue, and there were some other players available, but I think when we looked at our roster and looking at the draft and trying to, marry the two pools of players, we weren't really extremely driven by what else was out there on the free agent side. We kind of did our homework in the draft and talked about moving up and acquiring, maybe moving down and acquiring more assets and acquiring more than one tackle. And we kind of just we're patient, and I don't think we panicked and just signed the next tackle on the board. We were looking for a specific criteria, and we really just wanted a legitimate starting left tackle. So whether we had to move up in the draft or just be patient and see how things play out with other players was the direction we decided to go in. And a few weeks later, as we got closer to the draft, conversations with Baltimore started to pick up, and we were able to pull that trade off. So it was one of those deals where we had a plan, and we executed part one of the plan, and we just had to be patient and wait. And fortunately for us, Orlando became available, and we were able to, to finalize a deal with him and get him here. So we're extremely excited about that.
Yeah, the reason why I asked about your patience remark, Brett, is because I was wondering, because we did have John Harbaugh on the show before the draft, and I asked him if there was any hesitancy on the Ravens side of trading a player who clearly wanted to be a left tackle and wanted out because of Ronnie Stanley there, and if there was any hesitancy with trading with the team that's won the conference the last 2 years. And he said no, because the deal was right. But I'm wondering if there was any hesitancy that you noticed until you had to actually make the deal right for the Ravens, from your perspective.
Yeah, I mean, listen, possibly. Those trades are always tricky, just because the market is select. Obviously Orlando's a great tackle. It was made clear early on after the offseason began that he wants to play left tackle. I think that they had a unique relationship in regards to Orlando and his family history with that organization. So I truly believe it was a situation where they were wanting best for both parties. But when you look at the landscape of the NFL and you have a great player who wants to play left tackle, you're going to have a certain amount of teams that already have really good left tackles, and then you're going to have a certain amount of teams that are picking high in the draft, and they may want to just draft one early to get 5 years of contractual control. So it kind of narrows the pool when you're trying to do something like this. It's not like you have 32 teams just having an opening and cap space and what have you. So I think we got a little lucky. I don't think it was their desire to trade him to the Chiefs. I think it just worked out where it made sense for both parties.
Kansas City Chiefs GM Brett Veach here on the Rich Eisen Show. How is Patrick Mahomes and his foot? How is he right now?
He's doing good, and it's typical with Patrick. We're going to have to protect Patrick versus himself because he's already. I spoke to him a few days ago, and he's ahead of schedule. And look, he's going to do some stuff with these OTAs. It won't be full dropbacks and rollouts, but he'll do some stuff. I spoke with Rick Burkholder, our trainer. We have our rookies in this week, so we're super excited about getting our coaches with them and actually getting some field work with them. But when I spoke to Rick and to Coach about, teams always bring in some extra quarterback arms for camp, and our trainer said to me, he's like, Pat's going to do some stuff this OTA, these phases during the OTAs. Now, we're not going to be crazy with him. We'll be super smart, but he's ahead of schedule, and we'll probably get a little taste of him back in action very light during the OTAs, but I expect him to be full go for training camp.
When's the first time you laid eyes on him? And give me a good story about when you realized he was special, different, first time.
Oh, well, shoot. So I think I've told the story a couple times, but
Please.
It was way back in the day. So when Patrick, before he even declared, I think every summer and spring, NFL personnel departments get their list of seniors to watch from our scouting system and our program. So we were just kind of going through the exercises, and at the time, I believe I was looking at offensive lineman prospects, and Texas Tech had a prospect that was draft eligible the following year, and during May and June, just kind of peeking at this left tackle prospect, and all of a sudden, this sophomore quarterback was just ripping stuff up and down the field, and every game you're watching, I quickly realized that I wasn't watching the guy I was supposed to be watching, which was the left tackle prospect. I was watching the sophomore quarterback. Then you start Googling and researching and where the kid's from and what he did the year before. Got a couple of log starts as a freshman. And then as you quickly start watching more and more tape, you get to this bowl game. I think he played LSU his sophomore year and single-handedly kept the team in the game. And they were completely outmatched in regards to talent on both sides of the football. But he was just cutting it loose and doing what he does now on Sundays. And it was one of those deals where I don't know if it was later that day or the next day. Coach had happened to walk by the office, and I joked with him. I said, "Hey, here's the next quarterback of the Chiefs," and we look back and laugh at it now. But yeah, it was really one of those accidental exercises where you're watching somebody else, and this sophomore quarterback from Texas Tech kind of draws your attention, and you just kind of get fascinated by the things he can do on the field. And fortunately for us, it worked out, and we got him here, and we surrounded him with a lot of talent and some great coaches, and it's been all uphill ever since.
No question, no doubt about it. I mean, dream come true. And Brett, you're a perfect person to ask this question to here, because all throughout the pre-draft and, of course, the post-draft, after the season was over, too, the conversation begins about how do you build a team around a quarterback in the NFL, or how do you build a championship team in the NFL? Do you add a quarterback who's a veteran? And certainly now that we've had 10 years of the new way of doing things since the 2 collective bargaining agreements ago blew up the way that you paid rookies, right? And then you had to make a determination on a first-round rookie with a fifth-year pickup and things of that nature. That you want to win a Super Bowl in the first iteration of a player's contract because you can pay other people because they're somewhat affordable before you have to decide to give them the monster contract. And then so we've seen a team do that with a player, and then we've seen them also pick up a fifth-year option of somebody and then kind of lament that after giving a 9-figure deal to somebody. We've seen Wentz traded. We've seen Goff traded. We've seen, Brady being picked up, and we saw obviously what Tampa was able to do. You see what's going on in Green Bay with what Aaron Rodgers is hoping to have built around him. You're the only team that was able to win with the guy in the first iteration of a contract, and be absolutely fully confident that the next contract with 9 figures on it is just all good. How do you think NFL teams are going to look at building a team around a quarterback? Are they going to draft one and stick with them? Are they going to eventually draft one and then trade them out to start the clock again? Are they going to go veteran? What do you think the rest of the league is thinking right now, Brett Veach?
Well, I mean, that's a great question. I certainly think that the natural inclination would be to draft and extend it. I think there is that challenge of, roster construction and being right on drafts and being right on your free agency. It takes a little bit of luck in regards to players staying healthy and the amount of picks you have in certain years and how you're able to work these contracts out. Certainly, we had a great relationship with Pat and his agent, and it was important for us, to get this deal done, but to also add flexibility so that we could, A, take care of him and pay him the way he needs to be paid, but also, B, provide that flexibility so that we can continually add talent and have that roster maneuverability. So I think the natural inclination would be to draft and extend with some flexibility, within that extension. It's tough. I think that's the dream scenario. It's certainly very hard. There's a lot of things that come into play, but I think if you ask any GM, I think that their goal would be to draft one and by the 3rd or 4th year extend them with some flexibility built in there that they can continue to add talent. It just doesn't always work out that way, so I think we realize here that we certainly have a special setup, and we're very thankful and grateful for that.
Yeah, I mean, you're the only one who's been able to do it, Brett. Honestly, I mean, I guess Russell might be one. But he just got drafted the year after this all started with the new collective bargaining agreement. I mean, so Russell was able to do that. They've gone on their second contract, but so few teams have been able to do what you're doing. I mean, that's the ultimate gold rush that you've done right here. Unless you can pick up a 43-year-old quarterback who plays the way that Brady does. That's just such an anomaly. Do you think though that we will see one day a team draft one and then, like college, let him graduate and then start the clock again? Do you ever think we will see something like that in the NFL in, say, the next 10 years now that we have a new CBA on that front, Brett?
Yeah, I mean, I guess you could, but, I mean, it's hard because everything has to line up. So I guess your question is, you get a quarterback, you let it play out, and then you draft another one. Well, right. I mean, where are you picking? How many quarterbacks are available in the draft? Are you picking certainly you don't want to be picking in the top 10 every year because you're not very good, and that would mean the quarterback didn't play very good. So it's one of those fine lines where if you have success with a rookie quarterback on his rookie deal, you're picking 30, 31. Well, how many surefire plug-and-play starters do you think, you're going to have access to?
Right.
So then if you do let them go and you're picking 31, I mean, who are you going to get there at 31? So it's a fine line, and it's tricky. Now, if all of a sudden years from now, down the line, there's this influx of 8, 9, 10 quarterbacks going year after year, that's possible. I just think that it's very hard to land one of these guys, and teams that get stuck in purgatory so to speak, are teams that have quarterbacks that are just good enough, and they're picking 19 or 20, and the quarterbacks are going in the top 10, and they're kind of like, their guy's okay, but they want to get better, and it's just hard. So it's kind of like a dog chasing its tail. So I just think that it's extremely difficult and hard to predict who will be available to you if you let someone with a lot of talent go.
So I guess your challenge is to, with the cost certainty that you have relatively with your quarterback with that long-term deal, is to figure out when the other dynamic players that you have on your team are up so you can pay them and keep them, assuming the cap does go up. That's essentially what your balance sheet looks like for the Chiefs.
Yeah.
Here.
Yeah,
for you.
Yeah, that's a fair assessment. And you're certainly, once getting the quarterback and having him, young quarterback, franchise quarterback, having him locked away, it just allows a lot of flexibility because the quarterback obviously is the ultimate Band-Aid, and he makes receivers look good and linemen look good and defense to stay off the field. So, you have a sense of you can attack the way you want to construct this in a little bit more of a creative way. But certainly you're always going to want to protect him. And I think we all saw that this offseason, what we did with our offensive line, and we dedicate a ton of resources to that. But I think once you have that guy and you protect him, I think, some of the other aspects of roster building you can have a little bit more creativity with.
That's right. In terms of that line also, just to wrap it up with you, Brett Veach, Kyle Long, you got him back out of retirement, and I'm assuming Dr. Duvernay-Tardif returns in 2021 for you?
Yeah, that's correct. Both Kyle and LDT, and we drafted Lucas Niang from TCU last year, a kid we had high hopes for. He opted out last year, so both Larry and Lucas return from sitting out last year. Kyle's back, and I'll tell you what, I know you guys all know Kyle, man. He is a ball of energy. He is in the building at 6 a.m., and I think when I leave at 5 o'clock at night, he's still in the building. And he is fired up, ready to go. He's in phenomenal shape. And then throwing him in the mix with Joe Tooney, Orlando Brown, and then Creed Humphrey, the rookie we drafted from Oklahoma, I think it's going to be really exciting, a lot of competition, and I know that Pat's going to feel well protected this year back in the pocket.
Brett, thanks for the call. Really appreciate it. Good luck with the rest of the schedule that I'll find out later on with America, unless I see it on Twitter first. So thank you very much. I appreciate it.
Just shoot Eric the text, and you'll be well taken care of.
At Eric Stone Street. I'll do that. Thanks, Brett.
Yep.
Appreciate it. You
there
be
you go,
well.
bud.
Take care.
Care.
That's Brett Veach, General Manager. Hey, you watched all the way to the end. Thanks for that. Watch more right here.